Life is a hurricane all of the time, especially if you're a Black woman. I can attest to that. We have more things on our dashboard than the normal, right? BIPOC people have more on their dashboard than our white counterparts every day, all day long, from everywhere. So I don't think, do you ever feel like you have this hurricane of emotions or things happening? I think, when is there not a hurricane of emotions or things under colonialism, patriarchy, systems of white oppression? When is there not a hurricane that is forming, that has us engulfed, or we may just be in the eye? In the eye of any storm is the calmest place you will ever be.
Today we want to talk about we got questions for you guys. Last time you were here and we talked about trauma, and this time we're talking about resiliency. Yeah. What is it to you guys?
That's a good one. I think we talk about this every day.
Yeah.
I feel like resilience is how you handle what life throws at you, to make it real simplified. Like, granted, some things are outside of your control. Sometimes my reaction is not in my control right away. I might need to woosah for a minute, but resilience is like how you get through it, not over it, not around it, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, when I'm thinking about resilience, I'm thinking about a ball. I'm thinking about when you throw a ball and the bounce back that happens. Resiliency is an action, it is a verb, and it is the act of bounce back in my mind. It's how you traverse traumatic events that otherwise could potentially shape your life if you do not have protective factors built in.
I'm picturing Candice as one of those little kid toys where you bop it and it falls down and comes right back up.
Yeah,
Yep.
Absolutely.
So, how do you stay strong mentally?
I think it is about having a tool belt. I often talk about having a tool belt for trauma and resiliency that includes protective factors, like one reliable person that you can go to and have a conversation, one trusted person. Also, having someone to talk to that doesn't know your personal business, your personal life, and can't go tell your friends about it. That is just simply there to hear out what is happening. Also, the capacity to do what we did today intentionally, and that's breathe. When you have experienced adverse trauma, especially in childhood, one of the common things that happens is you stop breathing when you are triggered. And so it is very important that you breathe.
Okay.
Very much.
Have you ever had a mental hurricane where you just overflowed with everything going on?
Yes. Big ass yes.
Yes.
That's, I think, why I know that's why I do this work. I think that's what brings a lot of us here. It's kind of that community, that village, that idea that we have in Black and brown cultures that we take care of ours. And so my goal as a parent, my goal as a professional, my goal as a community member is I hope people don't go through what I've gone through. And I want to use my experiences to help others and also show actively healing through it. I would never dare say I'm fixed. And just when I think I am, something happens and I go, this feeling again. But to be able to take that and say, but I'm not knocked down by it. I bounced. I was that ball, and let me shortcut you through that because I know what it took to get here, whether it's having my family, having my extended chosen family, my village. And it's strange because a lot of those scientific things that public health wants to talk about with fancy names and words, we already knew. That's what our ancestors did. It was how we circled up and we cared for each other. If someone had a need, we all piled in to meet it. It's now that's scientific. So people are going, oh, y'all hadn't been doing this right the whole time. We were ignoring you over here.
Mm-hmm.
But now we want to know what you know. It's just how we were all raised, right? You feeling sad? I'm going to make you a meal. I'm going to talk about it. I'm going to hold your hand and sit with you. Not be like, well, that's your problem. But that isolation is what does us dirty too.
Yeah.
Like we need each other.
And I think the great part about that is really that life is a hurricane all of the time, especially if you're a Black woman. I can attest to that. We have more things on our dashboard than the normal, right? BIPOC people have more on their dashboard than our white counterparts every day, all day long, from everywhere. So I don't think, do you ever feel like you have this hurricane of emotions or things happening? I think, when is there not a hurricane of emotions or things under colonialism, patriarchy, systems of white oppression? When is there not a hurricane that is forming, that has us engulfed, or we may just be in the eye? In the eye of any storm is the calmest place you will ever be. So sometimes we have this ideology that we need to get out of the storm. But 9 times out of 10, if you sit still in the eye of the storm, you're going to learn the lesson so that the storm never takes you in again.
Wow.
Do you think it's a privilege to get to have that downtime and be like, I'm having a hard hurricane day?
I don't even know what that is. Like, I don't know what downtime is.
As women, as mothers of color, of children of color, as youth of color, do you get the chance? Or is it a privilege to take that moment and go, I think we have no choice but to keep moving. And that might be part of that resilience as well that you spoke to.
I think that's really interesting because a part of me wants to be like, yeah, it's a privilege. But then the other part of me wants to say, bullshit, reclaim your shit, reclaim your time. We are living under that patriarchal, colonized mind frame. And until we step away from it, we can point all the fingers we want, but it is a choice and a decision to continue to operate in that manner. And the moment that the hurricane comes, if you make the decision not to say, oh shit, let me get out the way, I need a timeout, that's a choice. Now, yes, there are privileges to it because we know our white counterparts don't ever have to think about that, right? If they're ever in that situation, it is likely because socioeconomics has dictated you ain't Black, you OJ, okay? And what I mean by that is this. When I say you're not Black, you're OJ got away with some really great things in this lifetime because they said, oh, the glove don't fit, you must acquit. Well, guess what? It didn't make him less guilty. And accountability happens at the time that the Creator says so. The universe will hold you accountable. However, where is self-accountability? And how are we breaking the chains of upholding systems of oppression?
Wow.
So, how are you prepared for these mental hurricanes?
How am I prepared for what? I didn't hear you.
For the mental hurricanes.
How am I prepared for them? I don't believe that we are prepared for anything. I believe that intrinsically, BIPOC have a resiliency that comes through something called epigenetics. Epigenetics was a study that was done on Holocaust survivors to dictate, was there something in the genome or your DNA that changed due to trauma that was experienced? And so what happened was they found out through science that not only was there impacts left in your genome on your DNA, but that it goes back 7 generations. That's what they can prove, that women are transferring epigenetically trauma on to their fetus from 7 generations past. So often when you're in a space, and I've seen this so many times, I see people go, what is wrong with you? And I'm like, we don't know. We don't know our grandmother's trauma. And there is something within you that is being expelled, and you need to sit with that. So I can't tell you there's preparation. As I said, there is a tool belt, and there is a village mentality that must go with that to continue to annihilate the colonized mind frame that we are upholding.
And to Candice's point, it's beyond being multi-generational, and we carry that. We carry the wounds of our ancestors and the burden of not transforming our pain, the damage we've all ancestrally sustained. or else we're going to put it on somebody else, on the next child, on the next family member. A lot of what this summit is about is that healing and tapping into knowing yourself. Like if I know for a fact, because of certain things in my home of origin, I'm going to get escalated. I know that I can trust my loved ones around me. If this thing happens, like my dad yelled a lot and he was very physical in his discipline. So certain things, I go from 0 out the door. Knowing this about me and having to really reflect, like, how did that feel? Where did that come from in him? Because he was born in India during British colonization. So he took with him a lot of like, you have to fit this mold. You have to be white likable or else. So he passed that on to us. How do we live in ways that we don't draw attention to ourselves, that we don't act up, that we're not the bad Indian? All of those things, disciplinary. I've had to really work to audit myself and those messages and like take a pause and go, the things we were taught we needed to do to survive or even succeed in a white world actually don't help us thrive. They don't feed our souls to be our best selves. So doing all of that ugly digging and then knowing I have people I can say, hey, Candice, if I'm in this room and somebody starts escalating their voice and getting loud, I might have to walk out because that in my DNA has old memories that aren't even mine. I will get stirred up. And she can say, I got you. I'll run interference. I'll tap you out. Knowing who to go to round up our people and shield each other is so important. That's what a lot of the work today and in day 3 is going to gear towards, is not only ourselves, but each other. Like, what do I need to know about you to help you be your best? So that I can say, you got to go through me if you want to get at her.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That forming that collective resiliency is really where we are right now.
The trauma's collective. I would think the solution and the healing is too, right?
It better be.
So the best way to deal with something is to have someone, pretty much. Like,
Well,
You hear the thing like hurt people hurt other people. Healed people heal other people too. There is the opposite and the positive. It's not always a negative.
mm-hmm, absolutely.
Because then you know from your process, like I have a bomb therapist. This therapist has saved my life probably twice over and tapped in and saved my child's life when they were going through it. So, but to get my child to therapy, I knew from my own work what questions to ask, how to gauge, like, what threat are you under? Are you in crisis? What do I need to do? How do I get you to come to this realization in your own? So in healing ourselves, we then cascade that to everyone around us. It's like safety and prevention doesn't just benefit me. It's anybody around me benefits from what I've come across, learned, experienced, grown through, gone through. That impacts everybody in our community. So with these leaders doing events like this, that passes forward into every neighborhood, every school, every home, every business. All of us are better just for being in this room with each other.
Absolutely.
And these are just a few of the very inspiring people here at ACT.
Thank you for listening to the Voice of My Bella podcast.
You can find our episodes anywhere you listen to podcasts.
You can support our work by checking out our Instagram at Confluence Media Center.
Click the link tree in about to connect with us.
Be sure to rate, reviews, and follow us. Make sure you put them good. And make a donation.
This has been a Confluence Media production.